Hello and welcome to Fats on Film. I am your host, Hannah Ogilvy Young, and this is the podcast where we discuss all things fat representation in film, TV, and wider media. And this episode, I am joined by singer-songwriter Kate Yeager. Hello, Kate!
Hello.
Welcome to the pod.
Gosh, thank you for having me on the pod. I personally, my favorite part of being on a pod is calling it a pod.
If you're not calling it a pod, you're not actually on the podcast.
Like, welcome to the podcast. No, welcome to the pod.
Welcome to the pod. Exactly. Like, we're all like pod friends, pod family, pod sisters, pod brothers, all of it.
Absolutely.
Oh no, I'm so happy we could finally make this work, Kate, because I've been following your account, your career. I mean, I feel like over the past couple of years, you've just skyrocketed. I mean, like, how has that felt for you? Creating your music, especially music which, growing up, I didn't hear many songs that spoke about bodies like mine.
Yeah.
How does it feel to be the person who's doing that for others now?
It's so crazy because you never set out with the intention of being like, I'm gonna talk about this thing. Or at least that's not how it was for me. Just as like a songwriter, the only thing that I wanted in my life was to make music that made me feel less alone. Like when I was a kid, like I used to I didn't like have a lot of friends in like middle school and high school, like a lot of us did. And especially that like middle school to like sophomore year period.
Right.
And I would just like go sit in my basement and like listen to these records, and like those people were my friends. Like those records were my friends. And so like all I've ever wanted to do is just like make people feel like that with me, because I think that we have a really unique opportunity here to like build a relationship with these with people across the world. Like who would have thought that like a girl from Nashville and like you in the UK, right? That's where you're at these days?
I live in England, yeah.
But yeah, so like I think that like we have a really cool opportunity to like befriend these people on the internet and like just talk about things that are important to us. And that's the only reason like you really ever set out to do this job anyway, is because you want to like write about your feelings. And like I said, like I was listening to songs when I was younger and I was like, finally somebody gets it. And so where I would love to say that like writing music is for not just for other people, but it's also like selfishly kind of for myself, because it means that like the things that I'm experiencing aren't just like the things that I'm experiencing. So like, like it's like so symbiotic. Like we get to feel less alone. And that's why I feel like the community that I've built online, I get really lucky because like they're just like down to clown. And that's like all I ever want.
Yeah, literally, I think I couldn't agree more with that sentiment of like, you're not just doing it for like others, it's for your own healing. It's that lack of community a lot of bigger people feel growing up, and like, of any kind of minority, marginalized, whatever, has felt this kind of isolation from the in crowd, in quotes there. And definitely when I started posting online, I was doing it for myself, because I was like, I really like where I've got to with like, I've fought so hard to get to a really good place with my body image, with my self-confidence, with my sense of style. And then so I go, well, I want to like, quote, maybe brag about it. It's maybe one thing, but also I want to like encourage others that this is possible, because it's such a rarity to see. And so with your music, again, you're giving yourself the opportunity to be seen, and then for others to also be seen back. And I think, I mean, that community, it really is gold dust, and I'm so thankful that we found it. Like, so thankful.
Yeah, it's been really beautiful to like see and watch. And I don't know, do you ever feel this way though? Like I feel like we don't talk about this like enough. Like I feel like we show like a lot of like the positive sides, or the like absolute extreme opposite end of the hatred. But like, do you ever feel like okay, how do I phrase this? Do you ever feel like you are in a posting like flow? Like you're like, I'm here, I'm with my content. And then like you start to like fall off of that, because like you're like, I'm supposed to be this thing of like figured it out with my body. And now like I might be having like a tough week, and then I've like fallen off of it. But I'm just like, do I post about the falling off of it, or do I just like is that too like vulnerable for me? Do I like figure it out on my own and then bring it to the internet? Because I feel like I've been posting this like fashion content like every day where
you have.
I like love
your
the body that I'm in.
Your vest game, Kate, is next level.
Thank you.
You love a vest.
I love a vest.
You love a vest.
Listen, I will search high and low for a cute ass vest.
As you should.
And I stand by it.
Yeah.
I'll go to the men's section. I'll look.
Yes.
I'll look high and low. I thrift all the time when I'm on tour. It's like my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
And I'm currently into like the cute, also like pop of color sneakers. I've been like really into those.
Same. Love a pop of color in a sneaker. Absolutely.
I'm just like, what can I do to like.
Yeah.
But so these past few weeks though, like I've been like not posting as much about my fashion stuff because like my relationship with my body's been weird because we're about to be in summer in Tennessee. And I'm like, I feel like I don't have enough cute clothes for the summer. Like all of my cute clothes are for like spring, winter, fall. So I'm in this like really weird place. So do you ever feel like that when you...
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I shared, maybe towards the beginning of the year, I shared that kind of falling off thing, just to use your phrase, where like I got so tempted, Kate, to go and buy the GLP-1 or whatever it was. I was like, because it's so accessible. And I think like I've done so much work. I've like recovered from an eating disorder. I'm in a much better place. And then because the fucking ads, man, like the ads are everywhere and everyone's on it. I was like, should I just conform? You know what I mean? Like it would be easier to conform. And 3 years ago, Hannah, who was in the midst of an eating disorder, would have paid every dime she had to
I would have folded
this
so fast.
So fast. So now 3 years later, I've done all this work and I'm like, obviously like, oh, but I don't want it. But I'm like, but should I want it? Like, this is what I always wanted X amount of years ago. And so I shared about that online just because I was like, you know what, like, we're people, we're human, we're going to have those days where like the pressure, because that's what it is, right? The pressure to conform to the beauty standard, to conform to the, here's the bingo card, white supremacist, capitalist, way of life. But you know what I mean? Like get these bad boys out. And I spoke about it and the comments were so kind and so understanding because I know a lot of people are going through this. What's like the word kind of like another fight. It's another fight to just exist in peace. And I totally understand anyone who would rather not because it's exhausting, especially with everything else going on in the world. I totally get it. So I was honest about that. But I think it's a kind of connecting it to the film we're here to talk about today. I think we are not just, proud, body positive people who are really happy in ourselves. We're not just one dimension. We are multidimensional people. We have bad days. We have days of poor mental health. We have fantastic days of mental health. And all of that makes us a more rounded person and potentially someone who's more approachable to our audiences. So I think all of it is completely valid. I think all of it deserves a voice. And I'm sure if you were to share your own, just thoughts around this, you would hear from people you may not have heard of from before. Because they now relate to that side of you. You see what I'm saying?
Catch me posting right after this.
Like if I see it, I'm resharing immediately. Like, what have I just done? Well, before we get into Inside Out, because I cannot wait to talk about this film with you,
I'm so excited to talk about this film.
So excited. I want to ask you about your relationship with the word fat, because we throw that word around a lot here because to us it's a neutral word, right? It's a description word, like I'm fat, you're fat, it's all grand. But how did you come to a place of is this a word, comfortability with that word? How was that journey for you?
First of all, rule of fats on film: I'm fat, you're fat, it's all grand.
Yeah.
You're not a fucking t-shirt.
Where is the marriage?
I'm fat, you're fat, it's all grand.
It's all grand.
Yeah, I think for me, when I was a kid, I had like a really hard time with it because everybody was using it negatively to describe my body.
Literally.
And through like a lot of work, I'm just like, yeah, it's a descriptor. Like it's like we were talking about this before we hit record, but we were like, we've done a lot of unlearning, we've done the work, but not everybody has. And I think I think my biggest interaction with the word nowadays is like, and tell me if this is true for you.
Yeah,
But
tell me.
because we've done the work, but if like I'll make a joke at like a bar and I'll be like, till the fat lady sings and I haven't sang yet. Like I'll say it, and like some of my friends who just like don't understand will be like,
Yes.
"You're not.
You're beautiful."
Like, you're beautiful. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah, also yes.
And
Yeah.
those aren't, I feel like maybe that's an issue, not an ish me. Like I feel, and so like I feel like I have to have these conversations, and that's the most interaction I get with that word now is like,
Yeah.
it's really interesting because like I feel like I'm really like lucky to like be in such like a vibrantly queer community in the South, which is like very rare. And I have friends of all body types and body sizes and
Love.
races and genders. And I
Love.
feel like you really need to cling to each other in a place like this.
Sure thing.
And
Yeah.
so it is really cool that I have friends who are like open to like unlearning that mentality.
Yes.
And are open to those conversations. But I literally have to stop and be like, no, I am fat. And I'm hot as fuck. There's like I feel like that's something that you need to think about. If you're making it synonymous with the word not beautiful or like not hot as hell, like that is something that you need to study internally.
Yeah.
Because I've done that studying.
Yeah.
Girl, I read the dissertation. I wrote the dissertation on it. I understand. That's the whole thing about fat was like, regardless of, because I literally wrote a song called Fat. Like I had to like
literally
restructure like all of my feelings about it. And so I came to this conclusion where I was like, the things of my past, like I'll always carry those things in my body. Like I'm going to carry what these people tell me, like regardless of, because I've lost the weight. I've lost the weight before. I gained it all back. Like I battled through an eating disorder. Like I've done it all. And the most horrible my brain was when I was the skinniest. And then it's like you have to like reconcile this whole thing where people like look at you and are like, you look so good. And you're like, I'm done.
We laugh because if we don't, we'll cry. Right? I could not hear that more. Like, you're telling me I look great, but I loathe myself. Like, it was like when I was at my lowest weight, I judged myself so harshly. And like, body checking, measuring weight. If I hadn't lost any weight that day, I was a failure. My mind was not a healthy place, Kate.
No.
And so I'm just like, you make the facade may have looked the standard you thought I should be. But in here, it was not fun. It was not fun.
You're like, listen, you wouldn't want to go in there.
No. God forbid.
I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
No. Or maybe I would actually. Depending on which one I pick.
I love it. You're like, this is the tea. This is the tea. I'm gonna spill it. It's gonna be hot and scorching, and it's gonna go right
Absolutely. It's my pod. That's what we do here.
Yeah, these are my rules.
No.
Follow my rules.
Thank you for sharing that, Kate. Like, I really appreciate it because, like, you're absolutely right. Like, I think everyone has that like childhood trauma associated with that word, and I think it's a real feat that we're getting to the other side of it to a point where we can actually, talk and laugh and educate on it, right? Like that really does show like how much work we've all done in that space. So yay us. That's what I want to say. I would say yay us, and we made it to the other side.
Look at us. Yay.
Look at us.
Cute.
Okay, so let's talk about this film then. So Inside Out is a Pixar film from 2015. It was directed by Pete Docter, and a screenplay, like co-wrote the screenplay with Meg LaFauve, I want to say her name is, and Josh Cooley. It stars Amy Poehler, Phyllis Smith, Richard Kind, Bill Hader, Lewis Black, Mindy Kaling, and
the budget was low.
So the budget, right? So the budget was $175 million. So not to be sniffed at.
Yeah.
But it made $858 million.
That's a good ROI.
I'm sure they were thrilled with that. I feel that's a really good...
And they got a sequel.
And they got a sequel, a very recent sequel. It was nominated for 2 Oscars, winning Best Animated Feature.
Good.
And it's currently ranked 169th on IMDb's top 250 films of all time.
Work.
Right. I was like...
That's nothing to scoff at.
No, truly. I was like, I am very proud of this film I had nothing to do with.
You're like, personally, me, I'm responsible for this
Because I
success.
rated it, 5 stars. So therefore, I'm responsible for getting it in the top 250.
I'm dead. That's so perfect.
That's how it works. All right, Kate, I'm going to pass to you. Could you let me and the listeners know what Inside Out is all about?
Okay, so Inside Out is, you know what I was thinking about? I was like, I knew you were going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how funny would it be if I was just like a little drunk when I did it? Like a drunk history version? Or like, do you know?
Cute.
Where it's like,
So what's actually in
girl
that iced
has
coffee?
emotion.
Yeah.
They're all different colors. They all fight.
They all hate
This
each other.
little control board for the core memories. And they are, it's so funny because it's a film that I like feel in my bones, but like I couldn't, to give a synopsis of it, it's basically just about childhood and innocence and cultivating like core memories and like learning all spectrum of emotions.
Yeah.
Through this character named Riley, who is the human person, but she's not actually the star of the film. The star of the film are all of the emotions navigating her brain, is essentially the film.
Yeah, that is the film. Okay, perfect. So, Kate, why did you pick Inside Out to talk about on Fats on Film?
Why? Because I watched it.
Mm-hmm. That's it. That's the reason.
Well, to be fair, I was like, let's pick This Is Us. Then we were like, no, that'll be a lot.
So let's pick Inside Out, which, as we all know, is a totally fine and non-emotional film.
Yeah, no, like I didn't cry at all.
No, at all. No, so yeah, just so the listeners know, Kate did originally pick This Is Us. I have never seen it, so I immediately went, can you guide us through that? And you were like, that's a lot of work. And I was like, fair enough, let's just do a film instead.
Yeah, you were like, can you walk us through it? And I was like, literally no. Like there's no, literally like the amount of time hopping they do in that show, I'd be like,
that's my understanding.
Your dad is dead. Which that's not ruining anything. It's just like, and there's little Kate and then medium Kate and then older Kate.
No, we can't do that.
And then we navigate, like they flash back a lot. It would have been a lot. But I honestly picked Inside Out because it is a movie that I like sincerely love.
Yeah, sure.
And I think anything that we love is worth critiquing.
It's interesting because I can't call right now, Kate, where this episode's going to go. Because usually when I watch a film, I can categorically say that is bad fat representation or that is good fat representation. But I think this film, it's a very mixed, complex soup. I don't know.
I agree.
Yeah, I really don't know where I sit.
I was thinking about that before we were like going to get on, and I was like, honestly, like, so sadness and anger are, I would say, the like fat representation, quote unquote, for these like animated emotions.
I know, right? Yeah.
But then I was like, if joy was fat, it would play into like the jolly fat person like stereotype too, of like Santa Claus-esque stuff. And so I'm like, is there a win? Is there any win? And so like I was trying to think about it, and I don't think it's necessarily bad because I think that each emotion has their own spectrum of emotions. Yes. And I think that's part of what makes the movie so complex, is like you watch them all experience like smaller moments of all of these other emotions. And that's honestly, I feel like in the second movie, not that we're talking about Inside Out 2, but sadness really gets like a hero.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's dope. We get a hero arc. What are your feelings about it?
I watched it this morning, and I feel like whenever I watch a film for this podcast, I literally watch it for like the first time with new eyes, because I'm just like there with like my little notepad critiquing it, like, is this good? Is this bad? And this time around, I was like, okay, how are you feeling? So first of all, I think it should be said as well, Sadness is played by a fat actress in Phyllis Smith, which I think is really cool, right? Yeah. I think I'm really glad they did that. Like they went, okay, we're gonna have this noticeably more rounder, because as you say, like they're animated emotional blobs. Like I don't know they're not people, but they have purposefully animated them to hard to be rounder than the rest of the emotions. They've cast a fat actress in Phyllis Smith, which is really, really cool. And I was watching her arc, and like the whole point is her kind of like coming to blows with Joy a lot. So Joy is played by Amy Poehler, and she's this sprightly, glides when she walks type of emotion. She's in charge. She's the ruling emotion of all the other emotions, and she's she so believes that she's correct that when sadness rightfully kind of goes, hey, like, moving house is actually really sad and traumatic for Riley, Joy like really tries to bat her down, and on the first day of school she puts sadness in the circle of sadness that she can't leave, and she's really passive aggressive towards her, which I think is really ironic because she's meant to be so joyful. And as I was watching it this time around, I'm there going, when I was reading the trivia for this, they say this is the only Pixar film that doesn't have an antagonist character, because the antagonist is the change that is happening for Riley. Whereas when I watched it this time around, I was like, you know what? Joy is getting on my last nerve. That toxic positivity
is getting on my last nerve inside, in and out, and inside my life.
Literally, she cannot. She's the toxic positivity, which I think is a really interesting thing to talk about, especially in the context of a children's film, right? Because there is something like, there's this really sad moment. I found it really sad when they've moved from Minnesota to San Francisco, and Riley keeps on wanting to fall into some kind of sadness or grief or mourning for her past life, and Joy keeps on pushing her to the side. And then the mum reinforces that by saying, she goes, hold on, I wrote it down. Yeah, so mum says, if you and I can keep smiling for Dad, can we do that for him? And I was like, no, let this 11-year-old child be sad that we've dragged her across the country. Yeah. And so it really annoyed me, like, how this is like the kind of beginning of it, and then obviously sadness and Joy go on their adventure with the core memories, like you mentioned in the synopsis, and we start to see that Joy understands the importance of sadness and the importance of these complex emotions. Like, you're very rarely just happy, or you're very rarely just sad. It's like a mix of, like, have you ever seen like the emotion wheel, where like in the center it's like happy, sad, but then it branches off into more complex emotions?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I know that from therapy when I was recovering from my eating disorder. And I was like, that is Inside Out is the emotional wheel, the film, right?
Yes.
So I think it's really important, and I love that children are like seeing that and all that stuff. But then when I come back to this, okay, so why is it important that sadness is the fattest character in this emotions? Right? And like, are we playing into any negative stereotypes? And like, what's your gut reaction to that question? I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, because I think it's so complex, but I was just like, it's an interesting choice, right?
Yeah, I do think so. Part of me thinks, like I said, my gut reaction is like, of course sadness is fat. Like, duh, we have to be fat and sad. But my learned reaction is, truly don't think there would have been a win to make any of the characters like, there would have been a negative effect, like, for any of the characters to have been, not saying that they shouldn't have been fat, but like, because they're not representing a holistic person and they're just representing like this one emotion, it's really complicated. Like you were saying, like, if Joy was fat, then we'd have the jolly stereotype. If Envy was fat, then there would be like, of course, we're being envious of Joy, who is this skinny person, and like the wanting of something else. If Anger, like, who is short and stout, is fat, like, of course, like, I don't think that there would be a win, because none of these things represent holistic people. Yeah. So that is my complex reading of it.
Love it.
Especially because at the end, Joy does come to terms with the fact that like all of these feelings are necessary. My question for you was going to be, would you have felt less represented in this film if the emotions didn't play into like shapes and sizes?
Yeah, I come to this question a lot within like this podcast, because I'm like, am I saying I'd rather there be zero fat representation? You know what I mean? Like, and the thing is, I am so happy sadness exists. I am so happy sadness exists in her character form now. I'm not. The thing is, it's interesting because coming back to like who is the hero of this film, there isn't one. Who is the antagonist?
Did you say Bing Bong?
Oh my god, I fucking love Bing Bong, and we will have to shed a tear, pour one out for Bing Bong, because oh my god, it's so upsetting. I'm a 33-year-old woman, and I was bawling my eyes out earlier. Oh my god, but yeah, Bing Bong's actually a really good show because he has like the hero's death, doesn't he? Like he sacrifices himself literally for Riley's joy, and Bing Bong is another fat character within this.
Okay, that is interesting because I don't view him as a fat character because he's an elephant. And I'm like, that's a real life. Right? Because like if they're playing into like the size and stature of an actual elephant, it wouldn't make sense for like Bing Bong to be va-va-voom, like Skinny Minty. You're like, Bing Bong is snake.
He's got a corset around that hog body, absolutely. No, like, he's actually mainly candy floss, right? That's what his belly is made of.
Right.
he says he's mostly cotton candy, part cat, part elephant, and part dolphin.
Right.
So okay, so that's interesting. So when you think about, because I'm like, hold on, how deep does my fat representation brain go? Because these are anamorphized animals, right? They are got human characteristics. They've got big eyes, all that kind of stuff. So there is definitely some intentional, I don't know, size representation.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's fat, I think maybe the jury's still out. But yeah, I totally thought of Bing Bong as a fat character because of his belly, his candy floss belly.
True. I hear you. I was just here to be contradictory.
No, do it, because otherwise, if we just aggressively agree with each other, it's probably not the most interesting podcast. You know what I mean? Just aggressively, yes.
As I was like, it's so hard to like judge the fat representation of this film, because it's like they're not human,
they're not real,
they're truly just emotions.
But then on that, just again to like hit you, going back to that negativity that we can experience online as fat people existing. Something I see with other like, you know, kind of fat creators that might come on my For You page or whatever, is if they are fat, have a round face, have a bob, and have glasses, I bet you $100 there's at least 3 people in the comment section calling her sadness. You know what I'm saying? Like it's used as a name calling for fat people, which I think therefore reinforces that as a society we view sadness as a fat character.
Yeah. What? Well, my question for you is, if sadness wasn't the fat character, who would you make the fat character? Because I know who I would make the fat character.
I think fear would be interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I know because the thing is, like, with fear, like, you have that neuroticism, which we do associate with, like, I don't know, just kind of like the representation we've seen in our lives, and they're a bit more, you know, thin and frail and a bit more jittery. But I think, like, there's a lot of fat people who do live with a lot of anxiety. And actually, saying that in Inside Out 2, the new emotion of, is it embarrassment? Is that the emotion? And they're like,
I thought it was anxiety.
No, anxiety is the like orange, like frazzled haired one.
Right.
But I think he's like pink and he has like a grey hoodie on, and he's really big. He's like the elephant in the room. That's the connotation of it.
Was it shame?
Oh, it might be shame. Yeah, maybe. I could have done more research before coming into this, but I didn't.
I'm like, this is a Google question. We can.
This is a Google. Should we consult the Google?
I'm like, do we do it?
Yeah.
No shame. No tea, no shade.
We're just trying to be completely accurate for the podcast.
That's what I'm
saying. So cute. I'm sorry. How
Inside Out 2 new characters. Right, and there's boredom.
Ennui, yeah. Envy. Embarrassment. It is embarrassment.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and what was the point we were saying?
Right, there's fear, disgust, anxiety, envy.
Ennui. Who's the French one? Yeah.
Yeah.
So funny. So yeah, so I think like, so again, they made that emotion, that character, a much bigger like shape, bigger size than the rest of them. But again, I think they're just playing into this idea of like you want to hide yourself and you're the biggest the biggest one in the room type thing.
Yeah.
But so coming back to like the choice for sadness and the shapes. So I read that Peter Docter, who's the director, he says that each emotion is actually based on a shape. So joy is meant to represent a star, and sadness is to represent a teardrop. Anger is a fire brick, fear is a raw nerve, and disgust is broccoli. So there you go. That's how they got around it.
Interesting.
Because what I would say is there's a moment which really took me by surprise when sadness first kind of like collapsed into a bit of a puddle because she's just a bit like, oh, like this. And there's a sound effect they played over the top, which made me think it sounded like jelly or jello hitting the floor, like this wibbly wobbly thing. And I was like, was that a fat joke? Like, what was that? But then when I understand that they think she's a teardrop, I'm like, I think it was meant to sound like water hitting the floor.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was a fat joke, which I'm more than happy about it not being a fat joke. But I was like, oh, yeah, I wouldn't say she read as a teardrop.
No, I would say that if she was littler on top and then like,
yeah, right, like apple
triangle almost. Yeah, it would have. Yeah. So like, it's really interesting because I know what character I would have chose to be fat.
Oh yeah, please tell me.
I would have chose Riley.
Very good point. Are there any fat human characters?
I don't think so. And they like show her being really active. And I would have loved to have seen like a non-skinny kid like being active. And then it would have taken the importance off of the emotions having different shapes and sizes if Riley was even a mid-size character. Yeah. Or like a normal size character.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even like having like fat parents. Any kind of like that's a really like 10 out of 10 answer because I was just totally in the mind. But yeah, you're absolutely right because it would have just taken any kind of reading we could take out of it because like, oh well, it doesn't matter because Riley's the bigger character.
Riley's the bigger character, and then it would make sense that she has every emotion and like every feeling, and it would have taken every critique that we could have had. Not every critique, but like a lot of the critiques we could have had about how fat was represented if she was the representation and then all of these emotions and feelings were just they were just like ambiguous blob shapes.
I was going to ask, like, has Pixar ever done like a fat child character? Answering it myself is Up. The kid in Up is a little fat kid, and he's so fucking cute.
He's so cute and joyful.
Yeah, so it's good. So first of all, it's going to be like, would Pixar do that? But yeah, they've done it before. They could do it again. Why not? Yeah. But I mean, you're right. Absolutely. Like, athletic representation within that would have been so huge because again, it's such a stereotype that fat people don't move. Yeah, we do. And
I was at the gym before we filmed this.
There we go. Come on, like it's absolutely, that would have been really awesome representation.
That's what I'm thinking is like that, and that like would have nulled so many critiques of this film because then we wouldn't be like, oh, does fat have to be, or does sad have to be fat? Does fat have to be sad? Does sad have
If fat, why sad? Mrs. Geller, why you crying?
You're fat, I'm fat, we're grand.
We're grand. We're all grand. We're all grand. So, if we talk about sadness as a character then, as our token fat character of the piece, what are her good qualities? What's the good representation in sadness?
I kind of just like love that she's not trying to push down the sadness.
Love that.
Like, I love that she's just like pretty free flowing about it. And she's like unapologetically the thing that she is. Because I do think that joy, there's like some false joy in there. Like there's the toxic positivity that we talked about.
100%.
But never, even when like sadness is like, oh, I'm sorry. Like it's just like so sadness that I wouldn't even like dare to think about it. And it makes me think of like, we're meant to feel all of our feelings at their fullest extent, regardless of what they are and who they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So That's my favorite part about her. What's your favorite part about her?
I absolutely love how she's able to connect to people or to other,
Yeah.
I don't know what the right word is because they're not people, but you know, even to other characters. So, like the scene when Bing Bong loses his cart and he's really upset, and Joy's like trying to get the hustle in him, like, no, we gotta go, we gotta get the train, or whatever it is they're trying to get to. And Sadness sits next to him and she says, you know, that's really sad that you've lost that. And he's like, yeah, it is. And she encourages him to like feel the sadness. And Joy's in the background going, oh, Sadness, you're not helping. And she doesn't listen to Joy. She carries on comforting Bing Bong.
Mm-hmm.
And they both have a cry together. And then Bing Bong says, thank you, I feel so much better. And that, woof, like waterworks were going. I was just like, that was beautiful because, you know, it's very important. Sadness, as the film depicts, can be something we're encouraged to not show because we don't want to affect other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Sadness's connection to Bing Bong in that moment showed how powerful it is to have that connection within the sadness and to encourage the sadness to come out and to be expressed, because you do feel better after it, don't you? After you've, you know, swallowed it down, you've actually let it out. And the fact that she encourages that of Bing Bong to the point where they can now move on to the next, you know, task that they're doing, I just loved that. And I love her confidence to do that in spite of Joy being like, we gotta go, you know?
That is something that I really respect about Sadness, is that she's really able, and that's where I think our 2 points about her like really shake hands.
Yeah, totally.
Is that like she is able to stand in these moments, and I'm almost wondering if Sadness makes us more able to empathize with other people than Joy.
Yeah, I think so. Because Joy, depicted in this film, is like a one-woman band, you know?
Yeah.
She almost doesn't even listen to the other emotions. And they don't seem to mind, right? Disgust, anger and fear don't seem to mind that Joy rules the roost. But Sadness obviously feels like, you know, how the film kicks off is that she's so compelled to help Riley express herself because it's such a massive thing that's happening in their lives, and it causes this fight for which the core memories get knocked out of. But the other three are quite happy for Joy to like rule, which I think is really interesting. Like, why don't they feel as strongly? And then maybe it's because Sadness and Joy are the most diametrically opposed, right?
Yeah, it's almost like they're like opposite sides of the color wheel. I also just realized that I'm fully wearing blue. As if I am.
It was meant to be. She looks so cute blue as well, Sadness. Doesn't she?
I also like that blue is such a flexible color because it could be like your skies are blue, but it also could be sadness.
And Joy has blue in her hair. So it's like, it's not just a color for sadness. It is in Joy as well.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting choice. So I think what I'm hearing is we both love Sadness. Because
we both love Sadness.
I love her so much. I want to cuddle with Sadness so bad.
Period.
But are there any, I've wrote bad qualities, but that just, like, I love her too much. I don't want to use the word bad around her, but like, are there any, I don't know, qualities that are less admirable?
Sometimes, well, it's really funny because I was like, what does Joy what does Sadness remind me of in real life? And it reminds me of that SNL sketch with Debbie Downer, who has the bob. Has the like fuck ass bob.
Yeah.
Wah, wah.
And she's just looking at the camera like,
Like it's
Debbie Downer at Disneyland.
And I do think that, like, yeah, Sadness is really, like, empathetic and, like, all-encompassing. But I am like, girl, lighten up.
Literally. Like, it's not all doom and gloom. But yeah, and I also think, like, her levels of sadness make her, like, inactive. So there's a whole chunk of the film where Joy is just dragging her around.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And she's like hitting all of the memories and they're all turning blue. And there's another point where she says they're in the imagination land.
Yes.
And she says something.
She's like, Sadness, don't touch anything.
Don't touch anything. But she's like, oh, can we do something a little less interactive, is what she says. Like, she's just so not, like, in the mood to be, like, physically active. And I was like, okay, I guess. Sure.
Yeah. We love her, but we all know Sadness. Like, we all know a Sadness.
Yeah. I mean, I guess
I do think it is that, like, Debbie Downer character. Like,
like a mood hoover.
Yeah, like, everyone has a friend that's like, yeah, like, there's a new pizza restaurant in town, and they're like, well, they get all of their food is genetically modified, and da-da-da-da-da. Like, there's always like a but.
Yeah. Oh, but you shouldn't go in there.
You shouldn't go in there. Sorry.
Is the best pizza you ever ate? Well, actually, I sort of had a D health rating.
You're like, I saw it had a D health rating, and that, like, the mayor, who's a, like, Republican, didn't like it, so maybe we don't go there. And I'm like, what?
What? I would go there.
That me trying to make a point and not making any sense. I'm like, no, like, yeah, if a Republican didn't like it, for sure. Like, is it because it's liberal? Like, I don't know why. There's so many ifs.
Ifs.
I don't know what point I was trying to make.
No.
But it was trying to be the Debbie Downer point, not to bring politics into it.
The thing is, being fat is political in this environment.
Period.
You know what I mean? Like, we can't get away from it. Actually, on that note, I wrote this down. So there's a scene where Joy and Sadness are, like, running around the halls with, like, all the memory balls everywhere, and they meet the memory cleanup crew, who are these, like, little bean characters, and they're, like, hoovering things up, and they get to, like, the US presidents. And they're like, oh, which ones do we keep? And they say, keep Washington, Lincoln, and the fat one. And I'm like, who the hell's the fat one?
Well, the one who got stuck in the bathtub.
Is that?
Yeah, Howard. I think it's Taft.
Shut up.
This is a Googlable question. I'm
Googling it right next. I was like, who is this one? Hold on. President stuck in bathtub. Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Taft.
William Howard Taft.
Yep.
I had no idea. What year was this? What year is it?
Google. Who's the president that was 300 pounds? President Taft was a huge man. That's what Google says.
Not a huge man.
Weighing more than 300 pounds, a special bathtub was installed for him in the White House, big enough to hold 4 men.
Oh my god, that's my dream, though.
Yeah, I want that bathtub. Give me a mini pool. I want a pool.
Yes. All of this, because I love the idea of a bathtub, but, like, a normal bathtub isn't big enough for me. So I need one of those, like, massive, like, ones I can, like, swim in. And then I go, well, if I've got that big one, I might as well just have a pool at this point.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Give me a pool bath pool.
Tangent. One thing that pisses me off, when we have what we call Rightmove here, which is like a property for sale website.
Okay.
And I go on there very occasionally just to see, like, first of all, houses that are up in my area, but also, like, to see, like, the really rich houses, £1 million plus houses. Tell me why people have £2 million houses and no pool. If I'm spending £2 million on a house, why is there no pool?
Okay, listen, as a homeowner, pools are so expensive.
I don't care. Okay, if I've got £2 million, I can afford the pool. I want to bear in mind, the listeners, I can't afford this house, right? What I'm saying is, in the fantasy world where I could afford a house of this size,
you would also be able to afford a pool. Yeah.
For sure. And it would be going straight in. It'd be the first thing I do.
Interesting.
But pools are not a big thing here because the weather's not good enough. So that's why. But then I'm build an inside pool, build a house to go. You know what I mean? I've got money to burn.
Honestly, have a $2 million house and fucking build your own inside pool.
Thank you. That's my dream. I'm
empowering you to do that.
Oh my god, thank you so much.
You're welcome. I do what I can.
Can you get in touch with, like, my finance advisor and tell them that I'm good for it?
Yeah, we'll get in touch with your finance guy, and then we'll go to the pizza shop that the Republicans don't like.
Yes.
Just spite them.
With our t-shirts to say, I'm fat, you're fat, we're all grand. That's what we call millions.
A callback. That's what we call a full circle moment.
Boop, 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 boop. It's like we're trained entertainers at this point.
Look at us.
Look at us. Who'd have think? So we spoke about Bing Bong and we argued whether he is a fat character or not. I think he is. But let's talk about his like who he is as a person. So like Bing Bong is the imaginary friend, that's right. Mm-hmm. And you know, I love Bing Bong. He's a really good like little addition to this trio. And when I saw this film again this morning, I forgot how long Bing Bong's actually in the film.
Bing Bong's in the film for a while.
For a long time, because in my head, all I have is him dying. So, like, I forgot that he comes in and he's like, I know my way around this place. You know, I've got this, like, infinity bag and, oh, we can cut through here. And he's a bit silly. He's a bit goofy. He's a bit zany. And I thought, oh, is he falling into the kind of, like, you know, stupid clown fat trope that we love to see.
Fat funny friend, yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. But then I also thought this imaginary character is meant to be from when Riley's like 2 or 3 years old. He's not going to be the most complex, you know, personality-wise. He is going to be a bit zany and a bit silly and goofy because when you're 2 or 3 years old, that's all you want, right? So I could kind of excuse it away for that.
It's really interesting because a lot of this is technically from a mind of a child.
Yeah, totally.
You really have to peel back what you believe for a second for it. Because you're like, yes, this is all from the mind of a child, but it's created by an adult. So there's just like so many layers here for us to like, you almost have to pick one.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's kind of impossible to do, which is what makes it a good film. It was a film that was intended to teach children about emotions that related to everybody in our generation because we never had that conversation.
Well, absolutely. And I think they do a really good job of that with the relationship with the parents and Riley, because the parents for me are really emotionally immature at points. And I was like, that kind of makes sense because they didn't have like, you know, we always talk about how in the generation like Gen X into Millennial into the Gen Z, like the emotional maturity has gone up. Like we understand how people tick more than ever. And so it's meant that a lot of, like, say, millennials have had to kind of like parent their parents because they don't have the same level of understanding around emotion. So I think like having the mum say to Riley, "Oh, you got to keep smiling, be our happy girl," completely neglecting her daughter's feelings about moving. And then you've got like the dinner scene where like the mum and the dad's heads are kind of arguing with each other across the room. And like the lack of like, you know, the dad's lack of like tact with dealing with Riley. He has no idea. And he's like, you know, calls her for having like a shitty attitude just because she's a bit upset about moving and having to start again. And I was just like, oh, they're really missing the parenting beats here. But from a generational point of view, that Inside Out's kind of taking place,
it's accurate.
That makes sense. Yeah, it really does.
What I can't wait for is for like not even Gen Z, but like whatever our generation's kids like watching this movie, they're probably gonna be like, first of all, it's gonna be like look like Shrek looks to us now.
How dare you? We will not stand for Shrek slander in this house.
No, I fuck with Shrek.
Of course.
But the CGI, if you watch it back now...
I know, but it's like 100 years old now as well. So it's like, you know.
So that's how I feel like our kids will be watching it and they'll be like, wow, this animation sucks.
And we watched it, we're like, this is amazing.
They were like, yeah, absolutely. It was innovative.
It was at the time.
God.
No,
but I wonder how they'll perceive it. Like, that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I mean, they say that a lot, like, you know, kids, like, the parents of our generation, their kids do seem to be a lot more emotionally intelligent. You know, this idea of like gentle parenting and soft parenting and all that kind of stuff within it. Like, I'm not a parent, I don't know, but I understand that to be like, that's how people are kind of approaching, you know, bringing up children now, which, I mean, it doesn't sound like a bad idea, you know? We know, because we've lived it, how those core memories from our childhood, how they manifest as an adult or going through like teenage years and all that. Like, it all makes a difference, like how you're treated as a child. And it's wild, right? Because like, you know, I don't know, like the 90s, they thought children couldn't even feel pain. The idea of like science and psychology has grown so much in the past I don't know, 80 years. Like, where's it going to be in another 80 years when we think about children and like how their brains work?
I wonder how many things that we're taught are going to be wrong.
None of it, 'cause we're perfect.
Perfect. I love that for us.
Thank you. Someone's going to be listening to this podcast and be like, these people were wrong. Like 20 years ago.
I think about that a lot with like how my parents treated food. Like my parents were taught that XYZ was going to be the right thing for me.
Sure.
And now they are learning that it gave me an eating disorder.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh God, we were only trying to do what was best for you.
I know, yeah.
And I'm like, I know, that's why I don't like fault you guys.
Yeah.
And like, God, like I know what my grandmother was doing to my mom. And like now my mom tried to do better by me. And now like, I'm sure I'm going to do something to my kid if I choose to have one that'll fuck them up in some way. But I had really good intentions.
Yeah. Well, that's the main thing, isn't it? Like what I mean, okay, yeah, intention doesn't always like excuse the effect, or the impact or consequence, whatever the phrase is. But yeah, like I totally agree. That was something I had to really like learn through therapy, was I had to let go of that anger. Because I was like, my parents, like, they didn't do enough. They made me feel like this. And I was like, actually, they were only saying what they thought was right. Could they have done it better? 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's also like they were also in the diet culture. They are still very much in the diet culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like very much. Like my parents are in their 60s and they're still trying to lose weight. And I'm like, God, take a break. You know what I mean? Like take a break. Just chill out.
Yeah.
But, you can only bring a horse to water. You can't make them drink.
God, I thought you said war and not water.
Well, you don't
bring a horse to war, but you can't make them drink.
We don't tend to bring horses to wars anymore. So, we frown upon that now.
That was so funny. You can bring a horse to war, but you can't make them drink.
No.
I was like,
what? Where's the tea in that?
Bring horses to war still.
I'm sure some people were
like
like
a classic joust.
Yeah, like A Knight's Tale. Yeah.
Medieval times. 10 out of 10.
I've always wanted to go to those like medieval restaurants, where you get like the crowns and stuff. I'd love to go to one of those.
Oh my God. They used to have one where I grew up.
Yeah.
Like right nearby. And it was literally called Medieval Times. And
there you go.
They really were like, we're going to get straight to the point. And
what you're coming here for.
I'll never forget it. It was right by the IKEA in New Jersey. And it was like IKEA Medieval Times. And I was like, who decided?
They were like, you're going to drag your family around IKEA. And at the end of it, you take them to Medieval Times.
Period. You sit in like an arena style seating. And everybody, there's like 4 knights, I think. And then there's like a princess and a king and like all these things. And everybody gets assigned a knight in like their quadrant, and you cheer for them. And then you watch them do these like medieval games, and you get your like turkey leg, and you're like fucking going for it.
Chowed out.
And then honestly, I fuck with Medieval Times. I love it.
That sounds that is not a thing here. You know what? If there are any UK listeners who know of a Medieval Times-esque restaurant, please tell me, because I want to go. I will travel, like no problem, because that is a
You're like, it's called the Renaissance Fair.
We don't even do Renaissance.
You don't have a Ren Fair? Wow.
No, that's again the listener. Someone will go, actually, in this very obscure town in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, that's where we do the Ren Fair, and I just didn't know. But no, it's not. It's not a big thing here. You're
like, we want to forget the bubonic plague, and you know what? I respect that.
Oh my God, that's so weird. So literally last Saturday, we went on a walk through this village, which was one of the places outside of London that got the bubonic plague. And they dealt with it by just like locking down their village for a whole year. And like 3/4 of the population died. Isn't that mad?
That's crazy.
It's crazy. So you're walking through this gorgeous village in the Peak District in Derbyshire. But like outside these like picturesque cottages will be these plaques that'll tell you the family that was living here and who died and when and how old they were. It's insane. So yeah, that's just a little bit of time.
Damn.
You gotta go. It's called Eam, but it's spelled EYAM, but it's pronounced Eam.
You guys have really cute town names. Derbyshire?
Derbyshire, yeah, that's like the county. Yeah.
We don't have that. I grew up in a town named Suffern.
Suffern?
With like suffer with an N at the end.
No.
Yeah, I swear to God.
I thought that would be smart.
So they were like, let's name the town after what it's going to feel like growing up here.
After this emotion.
Yeah.
The suffering.
And that's when we come back to Inside Out.
And then we come back around. Exactly.
Who would play Suffer?
Would play Suffer? Is Suffer a fat character?
Is Suffer a
Are they an ally?
I feel like Suffer is like old.
No, I think because they've had to have lived it.
Oh yeah. No, maybe Suffer is actually Debbie Downer because she's like lived through it all.
Yeah. Nothing phases her now.
I think Suffer is like actually like in their 70s, smoking a pipe.
Okay.
Like has a little cane and was like, in my day.
You don't know how good you've got it.
Yeah, like that's what they do. That's their whole character.
Oh no, I love that. I think their color would be gray. I feel like that would be their motif.
Or like silver.
Ooh, that's a bit more dazzling.
Right?
I
think I like it.
Okay, great. So that's the pitch for
Inside
Out 3.
So the creators of Inside Out call us.
They will be listening, I know it.
Inside Out 3.
Inside Out 3. The Suffering.
Placed in Summer, New York. Walking Dead.
So yeah, then the other plus size character, Anger, possibly Anger. You know, like you mentioned, short and stout, perfect description of them. Like, you know, I hesitate to say, like, is there a fat angry man stereotype? Because it just tends to be more of like an angry man stereotype.
Yeah, I think just men are angry.
Yeah, well, and then interestingly, like, then the dad's ruling emotion in his head is the anger emotion. So that does feed into the stereotype.
Yes. Do we know who plays?
It's Lewis Black, but I don't know
why he gives me Danny DeVito vibes. But
yeah, it's that kind of like voice, isn't it? Yeah, exactly.
That's my anger impression. Nailing it.
I mean, he's fun. He's. I would say he's just like a normal guy. There's no.
Yeah, I think just men are angry. I think it was right that it was voiced by a man.
Oh no, 100%. Again, I read.
If it was voiced by a woman, we would like critique the hell out of it. But we're like, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, I did read that they were like, when they were deciding what gender each of the emotions should be, they thought sadness felt more feminine and anger felt more masculine, and that's as deep as they got it. And I was like, you were almost where was that thought going? You know, like why do you think that? But then they didn't go any deeper.
Well, I feel like women let themselves feel sadness more and are more open to sharing it.
And I think as well, like it's that rhetoric of like men forget that anger is an emotion.
Yeah. And so I feel like I suppressed anger for so long, like as a person.
100%. Yeah, I did.
And like also men, in order to have a conversation, not generalizing for all men, you're like hashtag not all men, but like
literally
men need to like golf to like talk to each other. And like that's why they walk around and aim the little ball at the little hole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
smack it into the sky and then are like, I'm depressed. And you're like, are you good? Maybe we should have these conversations outside of golf.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's just me.
But they have to do it in an environment where they're not looking at each other. They're focusing on the little ball.
Yeah.
Whereas with women, I think they're taught to suppress their anger because they don't want to escalate any situations.
Yeah, but especially you and I, before we got on here, we're like, we're gonna yap.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and also that we also talk. But then on that, like a lot of women do feel sadness because they feel unfulfilled because their lives haven't, they can't pursue whatever goal it is because the gender role has been placed on them and they feel sad about that. So I think there is like a lot of layers of why we would associate sadness with women, or sadness with like more female, like a feminine trait, and anger with more masculine traits. But I get this is also a children's film, so I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of why that may be.
Well, I think maybe the point would be then that none of us can be a monolith for anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But unfortunately, when it comes to media and film and TV, sometimes choices have to be made.
Yeah.
Because Inside Out is not just about sadness. It's not just about joy. It's not just about this. It's actually about Riley.
Yeah.
All of those things are encompassing and like Bing Bong and like all of those things make up Riley. And that shows that she is not a monolith of things. That is the proof in the pudding.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't just because, even with like the mum and dad characters, they have different ruling emotions in sadness and anger, but the other emotions are still there. Like they still have anger, they still also have disgust and fear, and they also always have the other emotions.
Yeah.
Because like you say, we all have them. We're all super complex all the time. We're feeling all these different emotions and the mixing of the emotions. And I love in the film the visual representation of how the emotions can mesh together. So you then start to get the happiness and the sad memories and the disgust and the fear memories all coming together, because like as we grow up as humans and kind of mature and become more complex, like I said earlier, it's very rare that you feel only just one emotion, right? And I loved how the film depicted that. And again, it was a really emotional for me at that point, because like when Riley has her outburst and she explains that she tried to run away back to Minnesota and she's really upset and she misses her friends and she misses hockey and she's crying, and I'm crying with her because I'm like, get out, please. And then her parents hug her. Yeah. And so that memory was sad, but then it turns into joy because she feels the love of her parents. And I was like, oof. Like, it's such a beautiful scene. And I think they did, like, for me, like, it's a 10 out of 10 execution. I think they did it so well.
I agree.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Yeah, I was like, no contradictory point there. Nailed it.
No, perfect. So we have mentioned Inside Out 2 briefly. I've only ever seen it the once when it came out last year. But what do you remember your thoughts? Like, how did you feel the sequel handled puberty and even becoming a teenager?
Oh my God. I only saw it the once too, but I do remember being like, I remember being like, oh, I remember these feelings. And I remember going through these exact things. And I feel like I can't truly speak on it because it's not super fresh in my mind. Sure. But I do love the new emotions they added.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, I agree. I'm with you. I've not seen it in a while, so it won't be the most freshest of takes. There's a moment at the end of that film when like they have to like break through to anxiety, who's just having a full on panic attack, and that was like, because I don't feel like I've ever experienced panic attack, but I experience anxiety daily. And so I understand like how that emotion was depicted and how the brain is just constantly running on empty. And I was just like, again, it was a very important message to get across to our younger folks who, I mean, again, I just feel like if we go through like a generational thing, like we understand anxiety so much more than we did 20 years ago. But I bet in another 20 years, we'll have an even better understanding and a better empathy towards people who really go through the motions with their anxiety.
As if I'm remembering correctly, anxiety has that like huge force field around them, right? When they have the panic attack and they're all trying to like break in.
Literally, yeah. And the other emotions have to break in to like, you know, soothe her and bring her back down to like reality. But there's like this, I remember there's really like cringy scenes where, because Riley's gone to like hockey camp and she wants to get in with the cool girls and she like kind of boys off her friends because she doesn't think they're cool enough, and she's just really awkward, but like throwing her friends on the bus and like, oh, you know what, I did that when I was a kid too, because you're like, just to be in with the cool kids is worth it. And I was just like, it's so sad and cringe to watch it like again.
Yeah.
You know, and this is what you do when you're a teenager. Being cool is like the ultimate goal. And
life is so simple. You just want to be cool.
Just want to be cool. But then you say it's simple, but at the time, in the moment, it's the most complex time in the world, you know? Like,
absolutely.
Things couldn't be worse.
Well, I think about when I was in high school, all I wanted to do was go to the mall by myself.
Did you? By yourself?
Yeah, like with my friends. Like I just wanted to be able to like go hang out with my friends at the mall, but my parents were like, that's not safe. And then I was like, they're like, that's not safe for a 14-year-old to do. And I was like, all I wanted to do, like all the cool kids got to go to the mall by themselves, like with their friends. And I just like remember, I like think back on that now and I'm like, wow, that was such a simple thing to want. And then you're like, no, it's actually not. You just wanted autonomy.
Yeah. It's actually like, that was like the surface level thing. The underneath reason why was because you felt like you were old enough to go and do something on your own, make the right decisions or make the wrong ones. You know what I mean? Make the mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, having the freedom and the safety to make the mistakes when you're younger is so, so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely made a few of those, but I'm okay now. I'm a well-rounded person.
Yeah, we all do.
It's all good. Okay, so Kate, is there anything else you want to talk about with Inside Out?
No, it's just good.
It's just good. No, it's a real banger of a film. Also,
they crushed.
The score is so whimsical and beautiful. Like, the joy theme is currently playing in my head, and it's just lush. It's so gorgeous to listen to. It brings tears to my eyes. It's so simple in some ways, and then, like, again, like the film, it starts simple and then gets really complex as it goes on, and then ends really simply again with the piano.
I respect that Pixar does not fuck around.
They are so reliable. Like, such reliable storytellers. They put their whole pusses into making these banger films. Yeah, like, I really respect them. I also read
that they put their Pixar into that thing.
They really do, and I'm like, and I appreciate it every time. Okay, Kate. So at the end of a Facts on Film episode, we like to rate our films on how well we believe they represent fat bodies, and we like to rate them out of ourselves. So out of a 5 potential Kates, what would you give Inside Out for fat representation?
I would probably... My gut instinct is like 4 or a 4.5 because I stand by. First of all, I'm never going to have a correct opinion on anything. Like, that's just my opinion. And second of all, I do believe that for me, the improvement would have been making Riley the fat character, or like or like just beyond skinny. I would have loved to seen her be athletic. We just have a lot of that representation already.
Absolutely.
And then it would have clarified a lot of the, like, having the emotions represent monoliths of things, and have it, then the complexity would be different. But I really love Sadness.
Yeah.
I really do love her.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go high. I'm gonna give it 4 Hannahs. I think the thing is, we've made it very clear. We could argue till the cows come home whether this was intentional or not. Whether they were trying to lead into some poor fat stereotypes or not, like the fat sad person, blah, 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 blah. But regardless, I think Sadness is a really good character.
I agree.
She's I think obviously she's integral to the story, but she's integral to, like, us. It's like, having sadness as an emotion is a very important emotion for us all to have, and I love how she's represented by a rounder body, played by a plus size actress. I think that's super, super cool.
Agree.
And I love her. I think Phyllis Smith's performance of Sadness is also really, really good. And I also fucking love Bing Bong so much. He breaks my heart every time. I really want to get a Bing Bong cuddly toy. So I'm gonna Google that as soon as we finish this call.
Perfect. Let me know when it comes in.
Okay, I will. But yeah, for me, like, it's a 5-star film for me, and it's a 4 Hannahs for fat representation.
Period. I agree.
Yeah, perfect. Well, this was...
And that's what we call consensus.
We have come to the conclusion that this is a banger. Certified banger.
Bop, bop, hit, bus, another club, no sleep.
No
Bing
sleep.
Bong.
No! Why did you bring him into this?
Leave Bing Bong out of this!
I think Lady Gaga 100% cries when Bing Bong dies.
Oh, yeah.
She gets it. Thank you so much, Kate, for joining me on this episode. Like, it's been so fun just to chat to you. But I feel like we chatted about everything. And
we did. Look at us.
Like, with the core being Inside Out. I hope it listens like that. I hope people understood why we went round.
And you know what? If it doesn't, fuck it.
Oh well. They're here now. If they've made it to this point of the podcast, then they've enjoyed it, right?
Exactly. Period.
They could have shut it off. Yeah, we're involved. It's all good. Ah, perfect. Well, can you let me and the listeners know where they can find more of you and your work?
Yeah, I'm on every part of the internet under Kate Yeager. It's sometimes Kate Yeager, sometimes Kate Yeager Music, not spelled like the alcohol, but equally as fun. And I'll see you on the internet. Let's hang out.
Perfect. And the links to all of Kate's things will be in the show notes below to make it super, super easy for you. And the listeners can find the podcast at Facts on Film on Instagram and... Is that only on Instagram now? Because I'm no longer on Twitter, because fuck Twitter.
Yeah, fuck that.
I think it's just Instagram now. And then myself at Queen Bee Says on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. And thank you so much, Kate, for joining me. And we will catch you at the next one. And remember, everyone, to stay fat. Woohoo!